Have you ever noticed that when women reach a certain age, a lot changes about them? Whilst much of this can be attributed to how times have changed, a large chunk of the reason for changes in women often relates to how they mature and change through age. In fact, a lot of things aside from changes in the body occur to women when they pass the threshold of 30. But this doesn't necessarily mean they're old. It rather means their desires and needs have significantly shifted to something else. Since these women are often some of the best mates you can date, it's worth watching this video to prepare yourself for what she might require. But first, we have to understand why women change as they grow older. Why do women change as they get older? The first thing you often notice about older women is the fact that they simply look a little bit older than they should. However, this is just nature running its course, and many women will have a solid health routine, which should help them remain as young as possible for as long as possible. The next very important change in women is often their perspective when shifting from a somewhat fairy tale picture of life to understanding just how tough the real world is. With this change, they often want more stability, and instead of seeking fun, women often realize that it's time for them to settle down with someone. Whilst some women might still try to live their best single life when they grow old, the vast majority of women will start thinking about children. It's these thoughts of children that often control their desires, needs, and even some of the following psychological facts that you might not have known. Now, older women can still be extremely attractive, and you've probably clicked on this video because you have someone in mind. Well, if you're interested in someone older, it's important to note that some of the approach techniques and dating advice you've received in your life are geared toward younger women who are still seeking their place in society. Make sure to watch this video until the end and stop to rewind if something doesn't make sense. By the end of it, you'll understand exactly what the best course of action is to approach older women and how you can turn this into somewhat of a successful relationship as well. Number 1. These women know what they want. One of the first things you'd notice with older women is that they might already know what they want from life, or at least have some kind of vision of where they want to be. Having experienced life, these women also have a firm understanding of what is required to survive in life. It's for this reason that men might find it hard to understand when the primary focus of a woman is not on dating, but rather to eke out some kind of career for herself and her children. Instead of living in the fantasy world that life often puts ahead of them, these women can easily just focus on a more realistic perspective. What this means for many men who approach them is that older women will be able to spot a lie or any form of flattery from a mile away. It's often the reason why they refrain from dating younger men as well. But it will essentially come down to the maturity and goals the man has in his life. With this also comes a whole lot of other things. You see, whilst growing up, you're still finding out what you like and which things can be fun. Something like choosing your favorite burger might change a couple times in your 20s before settling in your 30s. Well, many of these women already know what they desire, and this means that you might not be able to have as many new experiences with them. Finally, the same goes for when the relationship finally reaches the point of becoming physical between two people. You see, these women have had some experience in their lives, and they already know their bodies. But keep in mind that this will significantly vary depending on who the woman is and if she's gone through the steps to become someone better. It's always worth noting that age does not signify maturity, but this is usually the natural progression of how a woman changes during the first few years of becoming a stable adult. Number 2. Emotional intelligence becomes very important. You see, dating in the earlier years of your life can be a lot of fun. However, you don't always understand why you're hurting someone or when a woman is actually mad at you. In many cases, these women also overreact, and they simply react out of pure emotion. However, emotional intelligence allows someone to understand which emotions are worth reacting to and which of them will simply just die down over time. What you get is a woman who doesn't dabble in some of the mundane, and she doesn't feel the need to engage in useless emotional encounters. What this means is that you might not get the same emotional reactions from these older women as you would with someone a little younger. Once again, you should keep in mind that levels of maturity also play an extremely big role in how she would respond to some emotional issues. However, the fact of the matter is that you cannot expect to have the same responses from someone older. In many cases, these women will simply just allow these emotional issues to pass, and you're left without any reaction. This will tell you if you're just being immature. You see, if you have a lot of relationship experience, you often realize when the time is to move on and walk away. Number 3. Focus on independence. One of the biggest shocks you might find with many older women is the fact that they might even be a little more mature and independent than you are. You see, people eventually reach a point where maturity and independence are what they need to survive through life. and women often learn this through some of their previously bad relationship endeavors. This means that you should prepare yourself to know that if she is older, she has probably already been focused on building something for herself and helping push herself into the future with something that would allow her to be more comfortable and enable her to offer some stability. The big issue here is that some men simply cannot match this level of independence, and it means that they either feel threatened by the success of the woman, or they might even feel that they are dependent. Since men are naturally not supposed to be dependent on women, they often find themselves in a situation where things just don't feel right. This is why it is vitally important that you focus on building some kind of independence, especially if your goal is to date someone a little older. You need to match what you receive in the relationship, as men need to be the actual providers. Number 4. Casual relationships are not uncommon. As funny as this might seem, you might notice that many older women would rather prefer a casual relationship than something intense. You see, many of these women have been through toxic relationships and, in some cases, even divorce. This often creates some frustration and a fear of a stable relationship. What you might find is that she's not always comfortable with jumping into something too serious so quickly, and this also means that she would rather prefer something casual. Now, there's actually a sensible psychological explanation for why these women choose the casual relationship part instead of diving into something serious. You see, women also learn through experience, and they've noticed that men often change in these serious relationships. As a way of avoiding prior mistakes, she would rather prefer something casual, which gives her enough time and space to evaluate the person before committing. Yes, if a woman has previously told you that she doesn't want to get hurt and fears the same thing happening to her again, you can take her word for it. Women are far more emotionally sensitive than men. Number 5. They often have everything planned out. Yes, one of the things that also happens as you grow older is you develop plans. You see, these plans are often crafted without the knowledge that you will be meeting someone, and they're designed to help further the life of the woman. By the time you meet an attractive woman, you might be falling into her plan, and whilst you have plans of your own, it's very important to know that she would rather stick with her plans and goals until you give her enough reason to trust you. This is the actual word of importance. And even though she might like you, it definitely doesn't mean that she's ready to trust you or give up some of her plans to help you become better. Ideally, you would simply want to accept her plans and build up enough trust that your plans start to mold into one another and build a future. Since the future building is the main goal, she will try her very best to avoid situations where she would be the one giving up or sacrificing any of her plans or goals. This is what molds their personalities, and also why older women are struggling significantly with finding new partners, especially when it comes to finding relationships that are more than the mere superficial stuff you often see. Number 6. They've heard it all. Before you come up with your various pickup lines or schemes to get an older woman in bed, you should also know that these women have probably heard it all by now. In fact, their years of dating have given them the opportunity to see every different approach and figure out what's real or not. It's often due to this experience that older women primarily choose to take things slow, and you might find that it becomes increasingly harder for them to even commit. The main reason for this is due to their historical baggage, and as much as you think that that's unfair, it's not something anyone can control. One of the first things you'll see is just how much these women actually change, and how they would much rather focus on finding the real men and avoiding those who often have elaborate stories or plans. You see, once you have experience, nothing can take the lessons away from you, and they will even be applied to new relationships. Number 7. High intimacy drive. Another misconception about older women is that their drive, especially behind closed doors, is not as high as many men might think. Well, psychology has proven that even though many of these women take a somewhat more conservative approach to dating, they often still have a very high drive when it comes to such activities. Yes, this means that when you're dating an older woman, you might be in for some of the best experiences you have ever had. Also, you can couple this high drive with some experience that she's built up from previous relationships, and this is also something that could affect the way she goes through life. However, the big catch here is that you also need to prove that this is more than simply a hit and run, which could be daunting if you have to endure the plethora of tests that many women choose to put men through in order to see if they are the best suitable partners. Fortunately, those who do break through these barriers will often find a partner who's extremely willing and someone who truly wants to have the same level of fun as you are putting on the table. You see, it's all about trust and making sure that you've established enough trust within her to make her feel that much more comfortable when she's dating you. You will have to prove that you are simply here to stay. Number 8. These women make incredible partners. One of the biggest concerns with dating younger women is the fact that they're still preoccupied with finding themselves in society. Since these women struggle to focus on all these things, they often enter relationships that do not align with their future goals. And this means that the conflict of interest can create some relational tension between partners. Older women often just seek someone willing to give up some of their attention. In many cases, these women are already somewhat established, which means that your resources are simply seen as a bonus, and she doesn't actually need them to survive. If you can manage to set your ego apart and you can focus on listening to her and allowing her needs to flourish, she can actually make an incredible partner and someone willing to sacrifice some of her own happiness as a way of making sure that you are also happy. With many men struggling to find old-school partners with the same moral values, it's often ideal to consider dating a somewhat older woman, as this will ensure you can have a stable and fun-loving relationship. It also removes the need to create an extremely adventurous life that could hinder your own personal goals or diminish your resources. Number 9. These women are confident. You might think that as she ages and she doesn't have a partner, she might have a dip in confidence. You see, many people lose their self-confidence, especially when they figure out how hard it is to actually accomplish something in the modern world. However, enduring bad times and eventually doing things by yourself is a great way to build some internal self-confidence that many men might find intimidating. So, you might find that an older woman has more confidence than you, and the confidence will also be rooted into something stable that keeps it going. Many younger men might be somewhat intimidated by this, and it's also the reason why some successful women are struggling to find partners. Granted, many of these successful women have a ridiculous belief in their standards and would want to have someone of similar success and someone of similar social value. However, one thing to understand is that whenever you're seeking a loyal partner, it's better to find someone who's building with you. If someone hasn't helped you build anything, why would you feel the need to be loyal to them? You see, older women have the confidence, but they're also willing to give back if they've matured enough. This means that she could help push you to become something successful, and this will create loyalty from you to her. So the confidence shown by more mature and successful women can help you excel. Just make sure to choose the right one. Number 10. Humility is very attractive to these women. One of the big differences between younger and older women is that younger women often seek the biggest and loudest person in the room. They have no issues with a man who proudly walks around and flaunts his big ego. However, when it comes to older women, this is often something they don't want, and many of these older women don't feel the need to have someone as loud and who loves to gloat. So, whether you're someone established and successful or not, being humble is something that older women appreciate. The reason for this is that we've all had big egos, only to see life bring people down to their knees, and often forge maturity from this. Older women realize the importance of maturity and being humble, which is why you can simply use a calm and silent type of confidence to help you get them. Whilst dealing with older women might seem daunting, many older men have mastered this, and it allows their different personalities, coupled with their advanced age, to make for some great relationships. You see, there's a very powerful reason behind women dating older men, and you should make sure to check out this video next.